we're having a collective psychosis of titanic proportions in which our species, we're killing ourselves. We're destroying the biosphere, the life support system of the planet.
You are somebody who practices Vipassana. Does that help you get closer to the Force? Is that where you get closer to the Force?
I practice Vipassana meditation to see reality more clearly, to be able to see what is reality, what is really happening right here, right now. I'm not doing it as any kind of religious exercise to get in touch with this force or that force, with this story or that story. It's really, for me, then, the least dogmatic thing I ever encountered in life is Vipassana meditation. It just tells you, just observe what is really happening right now as it is, without trying to impose any story on it, without trying to change it in any way. I mean, I remember the first time I went to a course, and the first instruction I got from the teacher was observe your breath. Not observe God, not observe the soul, just observe your breath coming in and out of your nostrils, and just accept the breath, whatever it is. If it is strong, if it's weak, if it comes from this nostril or that nostril, it doesn't matter. Just observe the reality as it is. And what amazed me was that I couldn't do it for more than 10 seconds. Immediately the mind ran away to some story, some fantasy, some memory. If I can't observe the reality of my own breath for 10 seconds, how can I hope to observe the reality of the global political system or of the global economic system?
This reality that we all are sharing right now is of the nature of some sort of collective dream.
Hello.
You're amazing. Hola.
Hola. Did you get to work all right?
Yeah. No, actually, I had a horrible dream.
You dreamed you'd never see me again.
I left your apartment, I went downstairs to the car, and my friend, the stalker, had followed me there.
Julie.
Yes. And she wanted to talk to me. And I remember I had this buzz. You know, that buzz from you and me. And I think my mind was still on that terrible drawing of me. But she was upset. I don't know. You know, I got in a car and she drove off a bridge and committed suicide with me in the car.
I thought you were going straight to work.
But I survived. With my arm and my face reconstructed. And what's worse, I can't wake up.
The whitebull virus, it operates through the psyche, through our unconscious blind spot, in such a way that it works through the projective tendencies of our mind, because we're always projecting, we're always connecting the dots on the waking ink blot to create our particular experience, and then we'll have a meaning in our experience. But the way it'll work is that, so the whitebull virus will operate through the projective tendencies of our mind in such a way that then we perceive reality and then think that it objectively exists separate from us, which we then react to, thinking that we're reacting to reality when we're actually reacting to our own projection, our own mind.
Got the basic layout. Bookstore, cafe, almost everything else is here too.
Who are the people?
Projections in my subconscious.
Yours?
Yes. Remember, you are the dreamer. You build this world. I am the subject. My mind populates it. You can literally talk to my subconscious. That's one of the ways we extract information from the subject.
How else do you do it?
By creating something secure like a bank vault or a jail, the mind automatically fills it with information it's trying to protect. Understand?
Then you break in and steal it.
Well,
I guess I thought that the dream space would be all about the visual, but it's more about the feel of it. My question is, what happens when you start messing with the physics of it all?
This one is strange, so strange I don't even have an introduction or a thoughtful question to ask you about it. Have you ever heard of an upside-down Christmas tree? Yes or no? So the answer is yes, upside-down Christmas trees are a thing. The upside-down Christmas trees are pine trees or fir trees that are flipped upside down so that the wider base is at the top and the smaller top is pointed downwards. In modern days, this trend caught on when holiday window displays at major stores would put upside-down Christmas trees out so that more ornaments could be seen by the public. This bizarre phenomenon supposedly dates back to 12th century Eastern Europe, where the upside-down Christmas tree was meant to represent the Christian Holy Trinity, somehow. Have any of you ever heard of this now popular and widely known Christmas tradition? Upside-down Christmas trees just seem impractical and silly to me, yet here they are. Do you place your trees like this? Do you know anyone that does? Have you even seen this before? I never have, not once. In all the department stores, all the friends' houses, all the homes I've lived in, I've never heard of this before. Historical Mandela effect changes are the weirdest ones to talk about, because for some people, this is a totally normal thing, and for the rest of us, it's completely unheard of. As always, let me hear your thoughts below. In the movie Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the villain of that movie, the evil queen, has a magical mirror on her wall. Inside of it is an enslaved spirit who appears as a creepy face. The spirit is basically her Siri, or her Google search engine. Here is where the Mandela effect comes in. The evil queen at one part in the movie asked the mirror if anyone is basically prettier than her. What phrase was it that she said? Was it, "Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?" Or was it, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" As it turns out, it's "Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all." Now, here is the crazy part of this effect. Not only do a ton of people remember this as being "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all," even Disney and their officially licensed products have sometimes used the wrong quote. Pretty strange, huh? For example, look at this cup. This is a hotly contested Mandela effect, and I'd love to hear your opinions. So as always, let me hear them all in the comments below. Think back to when you learned about World War I and World War II. Visualize the massive warships that were utilized back then. Now, what color were those ships? Were they covered in abstract designs, or was it solid colors like gray? What do you remember learning? Abstract colors and shapes, or solid colors like gray? In World War I, and to a lesser extent in World War II, to avoid ship destruction at the hands of German U-boats, ships were painted in dazzle camouflage. This is actually how history goes now, believe it or not. The hulls of dazzle ships were covered in stripes, swirls, colors, and abstract shapes, reminiscent of Pablo Picasso's work. The idea was that the overwhelming mix of colors and shapes would confuse enemy U-boats looking through a periscope, thus making it more difficult to gauge the size, speed, and direction of these dazzle ships. Despite other people's memories, including my own to the contrary, this was a common practice. It started in Britain, but eventually spread to the US. It turns out that dazzle ships were surprisingly effective. So much so that during World War II, dazzle camouflage was utilized again by the US and even used on the decks of ships to confuse enemy aircrafts. Does any of this sound right to you? Growing up on the East Coast and being a big history buff, I've even visited some of these ships. But amazingly, I've never seen one in full dazzle paint, let alone any mention of this throughout history. So all of my education, all of my personal studies, all the documentaries and movies and things that I've watched, nothing. What do you all think? Is this exactly as you learned it? Or is this something completely confusing to you? Maybe you're something in between. Whatever you feel, let me hear it in the comments below. I'm so excited to read what you all think about this.
And it is, I don't know what other words to use, it is the trippiest phenomena because its source is in the psyche and it synchronistically explicates itself through the medium of the outside world, which is to say that it's as if this virus that is in the collective unconscious itself somehow extends itself out into the world and actually configures seemingly outer events so as to synchronistically express something that's happening inside of us.
Something, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Why are they all looking at me?
Because my subconscious feels that someone else is creating this world. The more you change things, the quicker the projections start to converge on you.
Converge?
They sense the foreign nature of the dreamer. They attack like white blood cells fighting an infection.
Like they're gonna attack us?
No. Just you.
When you're in a dream, in a night dream, right? If you have a particular viewpoint in that night dream, the night dream has no choice but to instantaneously shapeshift and reflect back to you your viewpoint. Because what is the night dream but your own mind, right? And if you think about that, so if you change your viewpoint in that night dream, the night dream has no choice but to spontaneously shapeshift and reflect back your change in perspective. So, if we're split off from a part of ourselves, say if we're split off from our own evil, and then of course what do? Our shadow, our evil, we just project outside of ourselves, and going back to that dream, which is none other than our own mind, into the dream will walk somebody or a group or a nation or whoever who will embody and incarnate and carry our projection. And now we have evidence, now the darkness is really outside of myself, so we become even more entrenched in the viewpoint that the evil is outside of ourselves. And the more we do that, the more the evil in the dream will appear very convincingly as evidence that it really is outside of ourselves.
This is great, but I'm telling you, if you keep changing things like this...
Jeez. Mind telling your subconscious to take it easy?
It's my subconscious. Remember, I can't control it. Very impressive. I know this bridge. This place is real, isn't it?
Yeah, I cross it every day to get to the college.
Never recreate places from your memory. Always imagine new places.
You gotta draw from stuff you know, right?
Only use details, a street lamp or a phone booth, never entire areas.
Why not?
Because building a dream from your memory is the easiest way to lose your grasp on what's real and what is a dream.
Is that what happened to you?
Listen, this has nothing to do with me, you understand?
Is that why you need me to build your dreams?
Get off of me. Back up.
Hey!
Back up!
Mom!
Get off!
Mom! Let me go!
Mom!
Let me go! Mom! Wake me up!
Mom!
Wake me up!
Mom!
Wake me up! Wake me up!
N'ayez pas peur. Vous êtes à l'hôpital. Je suis médecin. Je suis le docteur Cocheton.
When somebody's going through an experience like that, it's like your psyche is disintegrating towards potentially a higher integration. In a way, almost like your inner constitution is getting like rewritten, and you're in a fragile, very vulnerable state.
The one place in which gods and demons inarguably exist is in the human mind, where they are real in all their grandeur and monstrosity. Much of magic, as I understand it, in the Western occult tradition, is the search for the self with a capital S. This is understood as being the great work, as being the gold that alchemists sought.
So, if we can imagine for a second, just imagine that you're in a dream at night, okay? And in an ordinary dream, you typically don't know, unless you're really fortunate, that you're dreaming. You actually think it's real, you think the environment is objective and solid, and that you exist as the dream ego. In the dream, that's who you're imagining you are. And, but say something happens in the dream that actually helps you to recognize the nature of your situation. That is that you're dreaming, and you wake up in that dream. Not out of the dream, but you wake up in the dream, and you have the lucidity of like, oh my God, now I recognize the nature of my situation. I'm dreaming. And what have you had the recognition of? Is that, oh, who you've been imagining you are, the dream ego, this limited ego in the dream is not who you are. That's just a model for who you are. That's just who you actually are is the dreamer of the dream. And you realize the dreamer of the dream is not separate from the whole dream. And all of a sudden you realize, well, all of the dream characters in that dream, they're parts of you. And and that's where the compassion comes in, right? But let's invoke that imagination once more. Now imagine you have that experience in a night dream that you recognize you're dreaming. You have lucidity. And then imagine you connect with another dream character in that dream who's also realizing that they're dreaming. And they also recognize that what they're experiencing is just their own energy, their own mind, that they're not out of their mind, but they're inside their mind. Okay? Now imagine not just two people, but what would you imagine would happen if there were 10 or 100 or 500 people in that night dream who all were having that lucidity and all connecting with each other and putting their realization together and contemplating what they're realizing. Oh my God, this is all a dream. This is a mass shared dream. The way it's manifesting is a function of how we dream it. It's nothing other than our own consciousness materialized into form. Okay? And I would then suggest that in that imagination, that those dreamers who are awakening to the nature of their situation could discover that they could change the dream. Particularly when they put what I call their sacred power of dreaming together. Now, that was just a description of a night dream. And what I'm suggesting in the book, and I go into this during a lot of the second half of the book, is that what I just described is actually the nature of our situation right now in the waking dream, that as more and more of us wake up, we can connect with each other through that open heart of lucidity and compassion where we recognize we're not separate, and we could, it's what I call conspire to co-inspire. It's a true conspiracy theory. And we can dream ourselves awake. And this is an evolutionary impulse offered to us by the universe that we're invited to partake.